Is it possible for the character build to be both flavorful and powerful? It's no easy task, especially when we are dealing with such an unusual archetype. Wyll is a rapier-wielding Warlock Duelist. We're not settling for this or this, but rather something more iconic.
Hello, my name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die.
And in the midst of our theory crafting, we may have uncovered a way to almost double the damage output for your entire party.
My powers have doubled since the last time we met, Count.
Join us as we unravel this build. But hey, before we dive in, please help us reach our goal of 1000 subscribers. Thank you. This build is specifically tailored for Wyll, but you can use it with any character, granted you will be following Wyll's questline. Optimal race for this build is a half-orc. First level as a fighter is significant both power and lore-wise. From a lore standpoint, it represents Wyll's life before he made a pact with the devils. And power-wise, it gives us proficiency with all armor and weapons in the game, provides very important proficiency with constitution saving throws, which will help us to maintain concentration. But wait, there's more: fighting style. And for this build we are picking 2-weapon fighting, which allows us to add our ability modifier to the weapon damage in the left hand. Alternatively, you could pick defense here and use a shield in the left hand for more survivability, or even dueling fighting style for a little bit more damage, but I'm sticking with my choice, and during these early levels we'll be using a rapier in one hand and the best light weapon available in the other. And if we want to make it work, we need to pick the right abilities. I'm going with 8 strengths, 16 dex. It will be our damage stat at the start. It gives more AC, better initiative rolls, and works with our weapons of choice. Then we'll take a 14 constitution, 8 intelligence, 12 wisdom for better saves and perception checks, and finally 16 charisma. Eventually it will be our main damage stat, and that will be fantastic. Also, there are ways to acquire extra ability points through roleplay decision, but I'm making this build as generically applicable as possible. If you know you'll be making certain choices in your playthrough, adjust the stats accordingly, prioritizing charisma. For skill proficiencies, pick charisma dependent ones and maybe perception. From level 2 we are beginning our Warlock progression and will be here for a while. Fiend Patron is good both mechanically and flavor-wise. After killing a creature, Warlock receives a small but pleasant boost in temporary hit points, which proves invaluable for our melee-oriented build. Now, onto the Warlock's unique spell slots. There will be only 2 of them, but their level will grow with Warlock and they will refresh after a short rest. Spells choice: Hex, Command, Eldritch Blast and Friends for social encounters. Just don't forget to run from the charmed creature's line of sight before the duration of the spell expires. Level 3 and Warlock level 2, it's invocation picking time. Sadly, Larian have brought to the game only a limited amount of invocations. There are a lot more interesting choices in tabletop D&D. That's why you see the same 2-3 options picked with Warlocks time and time again: Agonizing Blast and Repelling Blast and maybe Devil's Sight. The first one is the best option for all Warlocks, Repelling Blast is just fun to use, and Devil's Sight combines extremely well with the Darkness spell. Next, 3rd Warlock level brings us a Pact choice, and of course we are choosing a Pact of the Blade, which allows us to use Charisma as a damaging ability. You need to equip your best weapon to a main hand and press Bind ability. Spells for this level definitely missed a step, and you can swap some spells with Darkness if you previously picked Devil's Sight. And to enhance our damaging potential on the next 4th Warlock level, we are opting for ability score increase. Charisma goes to 18. For our new spell selection, I suggest the very useful Hold Person, and feel free to pick any cantrip that suits your playstyle. At the 5th Warlock level, character level 6, will receive Deepened Pact, which grants extra attack with a pact weapon. Interestingly enough, for now this feature stacks with extra attacks from other classes. Maybe it's a bug, maybe it's a feature. Larian at this point is more concerned about comfortability of kissing halflings. We also receive an extra invocation. Go for one you haven't picked previously. When it comes to spells, Fireball is a good one and exclusive to the Fiend Warlock. This also marks your last opportunity to swap out spells for more powerful ones. Hex is not scaling with spell levels and is a good candidate for switching with Hypnotic Pattern or Hunger of Hadar. Now at character level 7 we are going back to Fighter and unlocking Action Surge for a damage burst on demand. Use it often, it resets on a short rest and now gives us 2 extra attacks. And that's only the beginning. Character level 8, we are fighter 3 and are going for a big flavor and power win. It's time to up our dueling skills with Battle Master maneuvers. Riposte is so satisfying to use and so thematically appropriate. Deflect. Attack. Precision attack is amazing for the times when you need to land that finishing blow. Sadly, Larian still can't fix a problem with the difficulty class of these abilities, so we are opting for maneuvers that don't require saving throws. Distracting Strike is a safe and useful option, but if you like to risk big, win big, pick Trip Attack for a chance to make your target prone and attack it with advantage. Later we'll discuss some equipment that can help you with this. And also there is another actually main reason for going with Fighter and specifically Battle Master. But everything in its time. Believe me, the results will be awesome. At this point, a big moment for this build comes. Around the end of Act 2, Mizora will ask Wyll for a favor. And when you accomplish the task with an easy persuasion check, you call for reward. If successful, you receive the Infernal Rapier, a very nice weapon that will allow you to use your spellcasting ability for an attack and damage rolls. So it's basically a packed weapon. I was so confused the first time I saw it. Clearly, Larian suggests Wyll should be a Blade Warlock, but then as a story reward gives a weapon that makes Pact of the Blade obsolete. Unless you are supposed to use this in the offhand, it's the only way to wield 2 packed weapons at the time. But to do that, at character level 9 we need to pick a dual wielder feat, which allows us to hold non-light weapons in offhand and gives a pleasant +1 bonus to AC. Nice. Hold your best available weapon in main hand as packed weapon and Infernal Rapier in another. And by the way, this gift allows us to summon level 10 demon with a pretty hot ability to cast Rays of Fire, an improved version of Scorching Ray, for a potential 96 damage every turn. And at level 10 we are picking Fighter's extra attack. And our Eldritch Blast will fire 3 rays. It's still a very potent instrument in our toolkit. Enemies are out of range? No worries, just shoot them with an unstoppable force of Eldritch Blast. And you know what I like about this build? The core of it is finished, but you have extra 2 levels to customize it the way you want. What are the options? Continue with a fighter, pick Savage Attacker feat for approximately 25% weapon damage increase, or just up a Charisma. Finish with a final 12th level and extra maneuvers. Or instead you can pick 1 level of Wild Magic Sorcerer for an advantage on demand and a shield spell. But for me personally, both power and flavor-wise the path is clear. At level 11 I'll go Paladin with Oath of Vengeance and Inquisitor's Might, which allows us to add radiant damage to attacks equal to our Charisma modifier. Divine Sense is also very nice, there are a lot of relevant monster types. Level 12, Paladin level 2, we are finally compensating for a lack of a shield with defensive fighting style. But more importantly, we are picking Divine Smite, which allows us to burn our spell slot and add radiant damage to attacks. We have our 3rd level Warlock spell slots, which, you remember, refresh on a short rest, and a couple of Paladin ones, which will also come handy. I like that almost all resources of this character refresh on a short rest, and I've set up my support character to provide an extra short rest. Check out my support build for Shadowheart. Let's dive into equipment choices. The headgear slot for this build is arguably the most contested one. So many good options here. Helmet of Greed can grant you an extra bonus attack. Sarivok's Horned Helmet is an excellent choice for this build, and you see it on every melee character build on YouTube. But I have multiple characters that want to use it, like my Kerlak Barbarian, so I opted for a Diadem of Arcane Synergy. It can be found in Act 2 Githyanki area. It allows you to add spellcasting ability modifier to your weapon's damage, and wait till we double it. Nice trick with this headpiece is to start a performance on your first round of combat to trigger its effect for free. Cloak. I use a Cloak of Protection on this character. Armor. Armor of Agility or UNT scale mail because our dexterity is somewhat high. A Helldusk armor is an insane endgame choice, but there is not a required armor piece for this build. Just pick what gives best AC and effects. Glows. Any glows that add extra damage to your weapon attacks will be excellent. Helldusk glows are good, but they are really endgame and you can craft a flawed version of this in Act 2. At the beginning of Act 3 you can buy Gauntlets of War Master, exceptional option for increasing hit chance and success chance of maneuvers. Boots. I use Boots of Striding, but Boots of Speed, Evasive Shoes or any Misty Step boots will be nice. Amulet. I would recommend Amulet of the Harpers for an advantage on Wisdom saves and the shield spell once per short rest. But Surgeon Subjugation Amulet is an insane item that will humiliate any humanoid boss. It works well with a Killer Sweetheart ring. The in-game description is deceptive. Essentially, you require a buff when you defeat an enemy. This bonus remains available for use until you complete a long rest, allowing you to activate it anytime to guarantee a critical hit. You don't have to use it immediately. For the second ring, you can use Ring of Protection, but Karlach stole it from Wyll, so he is forced to use Ring of Twilight for a similar bonus. Or you can use a variety of rings that add damage to your attack. Buy this bow from Karlach's friend Blacksmith at the city square of Act 3. It grants extra crit chance and works for all attacks. And now for the best part of the build. The reason we have picked Battlemaster and try our best to add more physical damage to our attacks is this little thing. Blade of the First Blood. Not only it expands our critical range, it also gives us 1 per short rest use of True Strike as a bonus action, making the spell actually good. Why the spell is the most hated spell in all D&D you can watch in my bad spells video, click the card. But most importantly, this blade just makes targets vulnerable to the piercing damage. But wait, the damage die on this weapon is just a d4, this should be weak, right? Nope. Let's compare the average result of the damage roll of a two-handed axe to this thing hitting vulnerable targets. Yep, it's 36% more damage. And don't forget, we are multiplying the damage of Battlemaster die. But wait, there is more. What type of damage do all rangers do? Yes, mostly piercing. What type of damage rogues do? You guessed it right. And knowing this synergy, you can even give your barbarian a spear instead of halberd and double their damage too. Of course, this weapon is very endgame one. You can get it from Orin, but there are a lot of fantastic alternative options. Knife of the Undermountain King, Devotee Mace, Duelist Prerogative is perfect thematically, but a little bit too restrictive. And let's not forget about Deva Mace, that brings the power of gods to a material plane. But what if I told you there are more power to unlock? To truly maximize your party potential, explore other strong and lore-friendly builds like the one we are crafted for Karlach. Or if you are in search of a top-tier support, you can look at our guide for Shadowheart. Building a well-rounded party can make your adventures in the game even more epic.